Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I actually heard the other day that there is, call it an epidemic of stress nowadays, anxiety, burnout. Just people are just at the edge. I don't know if that's a factor of COVID or what's going on here, but we got to work with that. We got to help you through that, especially if you're burned out. And if you are or think you may be, you're not living your best life. And that's why Anna Lovell Nesmith is with us. And she is, I love this, a professional burnout specialist. She's armed with the tools and the knowledge to help you move it forward. And it's great to have her back. Anna, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Steve?
Doing great. Doing
Good.
great. I think we've all been there at one point where we could identify and say, yeah, you know what? I'm burned out. I don't think I could go anymore. And there's all different factors. Even if you're not getting enough sleep, you could be heading right toward the burnout wall, right?
Absolutely.
Is that a big one? Is that a big one? Because I've experienced it myself, not getting enough sleep, and just you get to the point where I can't deal. I can't do this anymore.
Right. And sometimes not enough sleep is a reaction and a result of burnout. So it can be a slippery slope.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. How about men and women and how they deal with burnout or how it affects them?
Yeah. So it's a little different for each of them. I think that men oftentimes will push themselves through. They think it's just a deadline issue. And then on their downtime, they will tinker with a car or go on a hike or on a walk or try to just sort of center themselves. But because the issue is larger than just having to take a moment to separate your thoughts of the daily life, then they become really stressed out. They don't sleep well. Their minds are racing at night. And some of this is the same for women as well. But men oftentimes, it's like they feel like they need to be the fixer, right? Have the solutions, come up with the answers. And so oftentimes that is the script that's playing in their head when they're trying to go to sleep. Their mind is busy trying to figure out the solution. When they feel like they've taken time to go on that hike or go fishing or whatever they feel like they need to do to calm down and feel like they can center themselves, when they're done, they're not feeling well and they aren't sure why. And then the heart kind of becomes an issue. So oftentimes heart attacks will come on for men and women after the burnout because it's like there's just no reprieve from the stress.
Wow. It's almost like it's continuous. It just doesn't stop, even though you try to stop it by getting away, doing hobbies. And just what you said before, guys are fixers, no matter what it is. And especially, if you have relationship issues, if they can't fix it, they walk away because they feel defeated. And I got to tell you, there's been times where I've laid in bed on the fix it side and actually thought about how I'm going to wire something, like literally wire something the next day because I'm always thinking about that. It's like so ridiculous because you can't get rid of it.
Right. And oftentimes, even when when men finally fall asleep, they're dreaming about fixing something.
So true.
So that happens as well. Like the mind is always working.
Mind is always working. And I'm not saying, it's necessarily always a bad thing. Sometimes you're excited. Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to rewire the pool chlorinator and I got to do it this way. I'm going to figure that. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm going to look forward to that. But on the flip side of that, it could be you have so much on your plate and now you're adding that one more thing of fixing the pool pump.
Right. Exactly. And then there's just, like I said, no reprieve, right? There's no peace that you're ever achieving because there's a larger issue going on, which is the burnout. And so the deadlines, the workload, trying to fix the pool and all the other things, it doesn't ever stop because it's just building, right? And then there's no rest because the sleep is a big factor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sleep is my arch enemy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's my savior and my arch enemy. And I can tell you straight out, if I don't get enough sleep, things happen. You know what? I'll share with you. 2 days ago, well, it was Monday. Um, Worked late, came home, ordered groceries, made sure my daughter was okay, had dinner, started paying bills. I'm going to share something really pretty heavy here. I got to the point where it's like 8:30 at night. I'm like, can't think anymore. Like I'm overloaded. Like I can't do this. So I'm like coming down with something. I thought maybe I wasn't hydrated. I drank some more, ate a little bit more. I laid in bed and I actually got chills. And I was like, am I getting sick? Like, what is going on here? I slept better that night, woke up the next day and it felt fine. I think I was just, I was close to hitting that wall.
Absolutely. And the body will protect ourselves, right? I mean, the mind will protect our bodies by shutting down. So when you were in that moment of, I literally cannot process anymore, it was your mind's way of saying, okay, we are done. We
Yeah.
need to stop. There's no more time to process because what we need to do is go rest. And I think it's great, by the way, that you took that step to think, okay, do I need more water? What's going on here? Because that is kind of what we talked about last week, a really powerful pivot, right? It allows you to take that breath and think, what's going on? And is this something that's been happening, or do I need more water? Do I need to take a break? So I think I want to commend you for doing that, because it's hard. It's hard to take that step back when we're doing so many things like you were doing on Monday. So that's amazing. I think that's awesome that you did that.
Thanks. Wasn't planned.
Yeah.
And my bad for working late. I just pushed it like, I'm getting a little more done. And then I had it as my goal to finish paying these bills because they were stacking up. And I recently moved. So I was like, let me get this out of the way so I can do other stuff. I actually thought I was coming down with a cold. And I'm traveling this weekend with my friend. And I was like, I don't know, dude, I might be fighting off a cold here. And I'm fine. It's all
Yeah.
good. Yeah. You got to pay attention to your body. It knows and it's talking to you.
Absolutely. And that's what stress can do. I think we talked about that as well last week, that stress can look like other issues, right? It can start to make the body feel unwell. And I mean, that's a powerful testament of how quickly that can come on, but also how quickly it can be reversed. So
Yeah.
your body started to respond physiologically to the issues that were, just you were trying to do all these things. And again, pushing one more thing to that deadline. I mean, that's really typical of what a lot of the men will do in the workplace, because it's the nature. And I'm not saying women don't do this, women do this as well. But I think, again, it goes back to that fixer part of the men where it's like, I can push through. I'm just going to get to this deadline. I'm just going to pay this last bill. I'm just going to do one last thing. And then the body is like, we can't do anymore. Our mind is done. And so, but I think it's really beautiful, because that's a really powerful insight, because as quickly as all that came on, you created that space and it completely reversed by the next day. So you were able to wake up and feel well. And I think that's really powerful, because that's how quickly things can happen. They can go really south very quickly, and they can go back to health very quickly as well. It just is a matter of insight and perspective.
I was literally about to open the drawer and pull out the COVID test.
Oh, yeah.
I've never had it. So I was like, all right, maybe maybe it's my time, but
Yeah.
if it wasn't. And then to your point, how things can affect you and manifest in different ways. I think I shared with you, I dealt with an ulcer like 6 years ago. And, very rare have flare ups. It's only during very stressful times, but you can feel pain here. You can feel here. Your back, like, why do I just feel uncomfortable and not even know that's an ulcer? And sometimes it's like, is this a heart thing going on here? You don't know. But it can be just because of stress, and it's literally an ulcer.
Mhm. Yeah. And again, that's a beautiful way to say it, because we don't always know what's going on. And so when we take that time to find the connection between our mind and body, we can really holistically look and be like, what is happening? And you're right, it will manifest in different spots. Sometimes it can be, especially the shoulder. A lot of us men and women carry stress in our shoulders and our stomachs, hence the ulcer, right?
Yep.
And so, but it doesn't always have to start there. It can start here. It can start even behind anywhere that tension is held.
Yeah. For that, step one for me is like get a massage, even if it's,
Yeah.
not a great one, a cheap one, just get it done, local
Yeah.
place. Um, let's say we're moving past that. Now you realize you identified, or you're pretty sure that you're burned out. I don't know what to do next. We reach out to you. How does it all start? How does that process start?
So we have a phone call, and then I just ask, okay, what's going on? What has caused you to think that there's more? And I just, oftentimes they'll just be like, I don't know what to say. I'm not sure where to start. And I just tell them, just talk with me. Just tell me what's going on. It may sound like what you're telling me is irrelevant, but actually it's very relevant. So just trust that part of the process and just share with me whatever comes to mind. And with that, I'm really able to identify exactly what's happening and what they may need for support. I mean, it's really just an open conversation. And oftentimes when people are burned out, they are overthinking so much, right? And they're not thinking rationally with as far as, reasoning, that they're assuming what they have to say doesn't matter, but it absolutely does. And so when we start talking and I just listen, a ton comes out that they don't even realize they're probably saying, because it's just like they're on autopilot and they're just talking and they feel like, I don't know what to say. But again, that's all part of burnout, right? Feeling like you're unsure of yourself, having that self-doubt, feeling overwhelmed of like, I don't even know how to process my thoughts, let alone what to say to someone I just met, right? So, and anyway, that's the process. It's a really open, beautiful conversation where people are just sharing with me. And then really, because, and this is not me bragging or being vain, but this is my specialty. So it doesn't take me long to think, to identify, okay, this is what's happening, that's what's happening. And then oftentimes I'll say back to them, sounds like you are overwhelmed, sounds like you have stress, sounds like you are feeling really insecure with your abilities. And so, I can help you with these things. But oftentimes when I repeat back to them in a more simplified way what I heard, they're always like, whoa, like that's exactly what I'm feeling. I had no idea. But it's always this epiphany for them, like, oh my goodness, that's exactly what it is.
Because you're at that point where you can't process. There's so much going on that got you to the point where you're at that literally it's overload. I just it's all foggy. I have to believe that you are a very organized person. I'm guessing because in what you do as a burnout specialist, part of that in helping people, I would think, is kind of reorganizing their lives so that it flows better. Would I be right about that?
Absolutely. Yep, 100%. Oftentimes, one of the biggest things, and this is so easy, but we forget, right? But I'll encourage people when they feel unorganized like that, I always encourage them to prioritize by impact. And that right there stops this list from being just busy and everywhere to taking a moment, looking at the list of things that you have to do and think, what is the most important thing that I need to do today? And then do it, in order from there, because that alone creates that organization, but it also alleviates that idea of I've got to get all of this done and I don't know how, I don't have the time. And it's this flustered frustration that they're feeling. But when we take that pause and we think, okay, what's the biggest, most pivotal and impactful task that is done today, then it helps them reorganize their day and reorganize their schedule where they feel like they've got that control back. They feel like they're able to take it as it comes versus reacting to all of these things they feel like they've got to achieve in one day.
Yeah. And you don't even have a starting point if you're disorganized. And I've got friends that are a mess in
Yeah.
my view in terms of organization. I used to be very organized. I got some life goes on,
Yeah.
which hence probably adds to my stress. And I came in last Sunday to work and I just started organizing and cleaning a little bit, got a lot to go. But I feel it's like a breath of fresh air, like, all right, we're getting there. But I think it makes such a big difference in moving your life forward and not being feeling like you're out of control.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And that again is oftentimes what people are really feeling. One of the really major feelings of the burnout is no control. And it becomes internalized where they're doubting their abilities, they're feeling inadequate, feeling like they're unable to achieve their task or their job, feeling like they just, what they do doesn't matter, doesn't have an impact. It's almost like the why bother, why try, but I have to because I need to continue to work. But it's a really sad space, but absolutely that disorganization can really affect and have this profound, if you had the moment to think about, okay, why am I feeling this disorganized? That can be a really profound realization of, okay, wait, something more is going on, right?
Can you give an example, Anna? And by the way, I know you don't have a website, but give your email address if somebody wants to reach out to you.
Okay, it's the happiness effect. So the happiness and affect with an A at gmail.com.
And we're talking with Anna Lovell Nesmith, who is a professional burnout specialist. And yeah, we're talking about burnout right here. Can you give an example, no names or anything like that, of somebody you've worked with and what their situation was like and how we went from here to there?
Sure. So I think one of the most severe situations, this always pops into my mind because every time I share this with people, I share this specific story because it's so impactful to what really can happen if we don't take time to address burnout. And
I'm
in fact,
almost afraid to hear this.
right. And in fact, this is not a singular story. I've heard this a couple of times, but this one person in particular, they always stick out to me. But they came to me, and I'm not giving the he, she on purpose. They came to me and they were feeling just done. They had no more to give. They had just gotten out of the ER. They'd been rushed to the ER because they thought something really, really serious with their health was going on. And the doctors couldn't find anything. I mean, when does that ever happen, right? And so, I mean, they didn't have anything to tell this person, not like a health issue, not a mental health issue, not, a heart issue. I mean, there was zero connection to what the symptoms were. And they just told the person, there's nothing, we have no idea. You seem fine. And then that person happened to see another client of mine had, I think, tweeted about me, but that person found me and they came and they said, I don't know what's happening, but I think I'm burned out. I've been to the hospital. The doctors have no idea. And I really have had more than one person come to me and say the similar story. The ER part is specific to this person, but a lot of people have said, I've gone to doctors. They don't know what's going on with me. I don't know what else to do. I think I'm burned out. And and that's exactly what that is. But anyhow, this one person, they came to me and they were like, I came out of the ER. I don't know what's going on. I don't feel right. I feel like I just can't do anymore. And I don't know what else to do. So I thought I would at least call you, because I always talk with people. I mean, everything is the initial conversation. There's no anything besides time, right? Because my intention is to help. So anyhow, they said, well, I thought I could call you and just see what your thoughts are, because I don't know where else to go and what else to do. And 100% this person was burned out. They worked with me. It ended up being 6 months, but that person, it is one of the most beautiful stories, because the health of that person has maintained, and they are aware of when something is happening, how they can use the tools that I've shared with them and taught them to redirect, and stay well. And I'm so, so proud of that person, because they have been full of health. And actually, even more intense things have popped up in that person's life that could have very well catapulted them back into burnout. But because of the work we did together, they've been able to just really take it and navigate it in a way that's full of health, and in a way that's going to keep them well and their family well. It's just such a beautiful story. And I'm so, so grateful that that person came to me, because really it can seem very scary when our health seems like it's out of control. I think there's lots of things in life that can cause us to feel out of control, but when it's health, it is a whole nother level of, oh my gosh, what is happening? I mean, that's that one thing can make or break, literally.
Absolutely.
So.
And it's one of those things where you ignore it if you think there's a problem, because
right.
you face the potential truth, and it could be nothing. But
right.
Put that over here. But then you're just doing yourself a disservice to make whatever the situation is even worse, because you're not dealing with it. And with the story you just told, and again, don't have to get into detail about identity or anything like that. Can you share what some of the pieces of their puzzle that led to the burnout were?
So this person was really high up in the company that they work for. I mean, really, really high up.
Okay.
They have a family, have a spouse at home. There's things that come along with school with children. There's, the spouse had health issues. The demand of the job is like 70 hours a week, on top of being a parent, on top of being a spouse, trying to wear all those hats, trying to do everything at once, trying to show up, trying to drop off, trying to pick up the children, trying to do literally everything. Because what was happening too was there were health issues going on with some of the family members. And so that was a whole nother level of, I need to be somewhere, and I've got to get this done, and I've got to support, and I've got to pick up the pieces, as on top of working 70 hours a week, because the person was the breadwinner of the family. So they needed to make sure they were doing well in their job, but also make sure that they were doing well with their family, because there was so many things happening. And it's that one thing, right, where when something new is introduced to our lives and we're like, okay, we are just going to figure out how to make this work, right? And so then you do, but what's happening is when you're trying to figure out how to force something to work, the other things start to slip a little, right? And then you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't get there on time. This deadline wasn't met, but it was still met, but not quite at this time, so then you're spiraling and you're flailing like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. And I'm trying the best I can. And I'm only one person. And all that is just when it starts to build. And because of the nature of that situation with the health issues being a factor, it wasn't like a health issue that came and went really quickly. It was something that lasted for quite some time. Everything is fine now, but anyhow, it wasn't just like a cold that the spouse caught and then that the spouse became well. It was more than that. And so it wasn't like there was this reprieve that the person ever got. And then they got ill because, like, kind of similar to what you shared about Monday, their body began to hurt. They were having physiological responses to all the stress and the burnout. And when the doctors came to that person and said, we don't know what to tell you, we don't have any idea what's going on, it was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
Made it even worse.
Yeah. Because then again, no control.
No control.
Yeah.
When you worked, you said it was 6 months that you worked with that person.
Yeah.
How did that go along? Help, once a week? How did that go?
Yeah, so I always start with 12 weeks because when a person comes to me and they're burned out and we really truly identify that there is burnout happening, the minimum to help rechange, reposition, reorganize the thinking and the behavior of reacting to things, it takes at least 12 weeks.
It's been, by the way, I just want to say, this is not like a sales thing. It's been scientifically proven that's why, you hear the 12-step program.
Right.
Because it takes that amount of time to make changes and corrections and then move in a different direction.
Right. Absolutely. Right. And so when we work together, and oftentimes I can tell pretty quickly whether they need the 3 months or the 6 months, 12 weeks or the 24, but I don't always tell them 6 at first because sometimes that can seem overwhelming, right? The first thought is, I don't have 6 months to give. So I always say, we're going to start with 12 weeks. We're going to start with 3 months and see how it goes. And then we talk in the beginning of the week and we talk at the end of the week. And the beginning of the week is just a check-in. How are you feeling? What's on your schedule for the week? What happened over the weekend? Did anything come up? How are you feeling emotionally? So it's that moment to pause and really feel like, how am I feeling? Let me take a moment to breathe and tell you exactly how I'm feeling. Because in that moment, we get to reflect, right? And when someone's looking at you and listening, you're going to share with them because it's going to just come out whatever's happening. Again, even then, sometimes they're like, well, I don't know what to talk about. Everything seems okay. And then I'm like, well, just talk with me. How did it go? And then again, things surface, right? And then I give them homework is what I call it. But because of and I work with all professional people, but oftentimes I work with the really, high-end presidents, directors, CEOs, CFOs of the company. And so when I give the homework, it's never anything that's going to take extra time because the last thing a person has when they're burned out and at that level is extra time, right? And so all the homework I give is really tangible and little, like bite-sized. And then I just say, okay, this is what I encourage you to do over this week. And we'll check in on Thursday or Friday. Let me know how this has served you and how you're feeling. And then it's that piece of, did you try and were you being present with what was happening around you? And just those simple time slots of how are you? And then did that work for you? It's a game changer. And again, it's not extra time that they don't have because I do everything really efficiently, but also tangible as well as within what time they have allotted to give towards extra health, right? And so anyway, just by the 12 weeks, whatever homework they've had and however they've had to be really mindful of how they react. Because it's that idea of when you're in the moment and you're starting to feel your heart race, or when you're in the moment and you start to feel like a headache come on. That's when I say, okay, in this moment, take a break and do this, whatever it is for that situation. And then when I come back to them a few days later, it's like, well, how did it work? And like, oh my gosh, it works so well. And half the time, the homework I give is stuff people can do literally anywhere, and no one knows what's even happening. No one's going to see that they're doing homework because it's not an outward task that I'm giving them. It's more of an internal, how are you feeling? Reconnect that mind and body. And just, it's powerful work. It really is. And I've said this before, but it's because I'm really proud of it. But I have 100% success rate so far. And so I'm really grateful for that. But it's because I really work with people and help them understand what's happening in their lives and how they can empower themselves to respond rather than react to what's going on, right?
I was going to say, I had thought we had like a minute or two left. We're like at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe next time, can we get just some small tips when you're dealing, with a situation,
Yeah.
maybe like the reset button or something like that, and it could be even the breathing techniques or whatever. I would love to hear them, how you deal with people and how you work with them.
Okay, I would love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's I was going to go there, but they're telling me, yep, you're out of time. Again, the happiness effect with an A at gmail.com. Best way to reach you, right?
Yeah, or LinkedIn. They can just send me a direct message there too.
Gotcha. Yeah. Anna Lovell Nesmith, professional burnout specialist. Great talking with you. And you are a breath of fresh air. You really are.
Thank you. I feel the same way about you. Thank you very much.
You know what it is? You're like a life coach to another level, because you can get a life coach, but they're not going to. And a lot of times, why are you getting a life coach? More times than not, because you're having issues. And a lot of those issues may stem from being burned out or having too much on your plate and trying to navigate in a different direction.
Right. Absolutely.
Look forward to talking next time we get together.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.